Hello, fellow modelers. Bruce here again. I've been getting some good feedback from viewers on the series of videos I've done that kind of highlight some of the kit manufacturers of old. And you've heard me talk about Campbell. Certainly I've built a number of Campbell kits, but I haven't devoted an entire video to Campbell Scale models. And now that finally the company, probably about a month ago now, announced that they were shutting their doors after a very long run, I thought it was appropriate that I did devote a video to it. I cannot overemphasize the positive impact that Campbell Scale models had on our hobby. Just the breadth of the variety of models that they offered is just mind-boggling. They had a wonderful design team. If anything, I would say this: their instructions are minimalist, and you have to rely on reading a step in the instructions and then scouring the diagrams and pictures, which are very good. And then sometimes you can make sense out of it. I have built a number of these, so I speak from experience. It is not typically what I would suggest somebody start with when they get out into building models from kit form, especially wood models. But if you have a couple under your belt, and you are good at the practice of stare and compare. Stare at the model you're making and compare it to the diagram that's provided. You can usually figure out what's going on. Somewhat easier for the actual buildings, structures, such as houses and stores and they had everything. They had freight houses and stations and switch towers, and those typically, because you've built other ones, you can figure out. But if you get into, some of their bridges and trestles and one that I built, their oil derrick, it can be a challenge. But they make up into terrific looking models if you persevere. So yeah, I have a love affair with them, and normally when I've done these videos highlighting other manufacturers, I've kind of shown you all of my kits that are on the shelf from those manufacturers. And there's no way in the world I'm going to show you all my Campbell kits. Let it just be said that this stack is certainly less than a quarter of all of my Campbell kits that have yet to be built. And then I have a number of kits that I already built, and I have one in progress right now. On my bench right now is their covered bridge. So, yeah, wood, cardstock, a set of drawings, a set of instructions, some detail parts. They had their own line of windows and doors, as you probably know, and other types of detail parts as well that were generally made in plastic and over the years rather than white metal. I have bought any number of these at train shows, at blind auctions, at the national conventions, at eBay, of course. But my real weakness is when I see a kit listed or I see it on a train table, where obviously stuff is missing and it's priced extremely low, and it's basically most people don't want to touch it because stuff is missing. And I just got this weakness for wanting to save it, and in some cases I've already built those and brought them to life. It's funny, I guess, a lot of times when I'm modeling and in the background I'll have YouTube on the TV, and I'll be listening to one of my favorite non-modeling sites, which is Diesel Creek. And Diesel Creek is a YouTube channel devoted to buying, finding, getting donated construction equipment that is ready for the scrap heap and bringing it back to life. And the producer of that will be very forthright in telling you it's a weakness of his. He just can't stand to see a bulldozer, a steamroller, a compactor, almost anything go for scrap, and he'll try to rescue those. And that's the way I am with Campbell kits. If I see one that I know very few people would buy and resurrect, I feel I got to go for it. My first such kit was this Campbell kit right here. Let me get this stacked down a little bit so I can put this up on the pedestal of unopened kits here. This is a little Campbell structure that they called the Columbia Gazette office. It was supposed to be a newspaper office as designed. Zoom in and I'll try to remember to zoom back out. I remember seeing this on a train table at a little show sponsored by the New York Society for Model Engineers in New Jersey. And the previous owner had started building it. Each of these walls on this building are made up of smaller pieces of scribe siding that have to be glued together. So all the walls were glued together and painted with a thick coat of gray paint. The windows were installed, but most of them were cockamamie. They were askew because the openings in the wall hadn't been sanded so that they were parallel and perpendicular. And luckily, the four walls had not yet been glued together. All roofing material was missing, and it had the price tag of $5. So I bought it. And at the time, I did not have an idea of what I would use it for, but, again, $5 for a Campbell kit. So I got it, and within a year, I started working on my Bangor slate scene back in my layout in New Jersey, and I thought this would make a good office. So I popped very carefully the windows out of the walls, and then I found out that one of the walls, and I think it was this one, quite frankly, had one section mounted backwards by the previous owner. Now you can see, I think, that this is board and batten siding, and that one section had the battens facing inside the building and smooth on the outside. Maybe that's why the original owner got that far and just decided to give it up when he realized that. But I was able to carefully pry those walls apart, re-glue it the right way, sand them down a little bit to get rid of some of that gray paint, and got my sanding stick out and evened up all the window openings and got them so that they were now not askew, and I finished it up. The roof is a cardstock sub roof, and I made it into rather than using Campbell shingles, which obviously came with the kit, I made it into a slate roof for obvious reasons, I think, since this is the Bangor Slate office. So this Columbia Gazette was my first save, my first salvage from the trash heap of a Campbell kit for $5. It wasn't my first kit that I had made of Campbell. My first kit that I made was actually a deck girder bridge, and I'll show you some pictures of my other Campbell kits someplace in this video. So that was my first save, and over the years I have saved other Campbell kits that obviously were missing parts, but one of the most, well, I'll use the word impressive, I guess, but save was when I saved this Campbell oil derrick kit. Now I will actually use this, that's why I built it, because up on my upper deck on the Slate Run Railroad, which was in Pennsylvania, you know that in the early days Pennsylvania was a huge oil producing, matter of fact probably in the United States the first oil producing region, and I'll have this derrick set someplace in the scene. This was listed on eBay for $9.95, including shipping. And as I looked at what was there, it was obvious that an awful lot of the wood was missing. But what was there was the plans and all of these detail parts on the top of the these plastic pulleys and so forth on the top of the derrick. So I knew enough about Campbell kits to know that all the lumber is fractional lumber, which I always have in stock. And, you know, the difference, I've talked before about the difference between fractional lumber and dimensional scale lumber. Dimensional scale lumber would be, you know, HO scale 2x4s or HO scale 4x6. And fractional lumber is things like a 16th by 3/32 or a 1/4 inch by a 16th or 3/32 by 3/32. You get the idea. And I have a tremendous stock of those, and I always keep replenishing that stock, mostly through Micromark. So I had no hesitation to get this. Some of the bits and pieces of the scribe siding for the little structures was present, and a lot of the rest of it was missing. But again, I have sheets of scribe siding in different thicknesses and different designs, so it didn't worry me. As a matter of fact, as I started building this, I didn't even, other than some of this sheeting, I didn't even look at the strip wood and just went to my stockpile and replaced everything with new. The only challenge was finding these long legs of the tower. And that's because they were a very odd size, not one that Micromark carried or pretty much any other lumber supplier that I looked for. Those are 3/64 inch by 1/8 of an inch. So I did quite a bit of searching, and I was about ready to give up and replace it with something slightly different, which would have thrown everything else off, of course. When, I don't know, this inspiration hit, and I stopped looking at typical modeling sites and went to a site that specializes in people who build dollhouses. And I found a supplier on those sites for 3/64 of an inch by 1/8 inch strip wood. And so I got it and started building. And again, this was a lot of different angles on everything here. And this is one of those kits where it was a constant exercise of reading the print instructions, looking at the plans, staring and comparing at what was on my workbench with what the plans look like, but eventually made up into just a very nice model, as you can see. $9.95. Now, these kits complete are often on eBay. As a matter of fact, I looked on eBay this morning when I decided to do this video just to see how many Campbell kits were listed, and there were 6 pages of Campbell kits. And I think there were 3 or 4 of the oil derrick, ranging in price from about $40 plus $10 shipping to $70 plus $10 shipping. So always look, don't jump on the first one that you see, because there's quite a range of prices even on eBay. All right, let me put this away before I drop it. So I told you that I am currently working on the covered bridge, and I'll be doing a YouTube video on it, but this is the sheet of instructions, and this is the much more important sheet of diagrams that were included with it. And this was much too long for my usage, so I have reduced it by a couple of, probably over 20 feet shorter, redone the plans, and I'm in the process of building it. But more on that later. Again, just to give you, and I said that they have some really nice structures. Here's the Idaho Springs Mine, which will find a home on my upper layout, the Slate Run Railroad. Siebold Manufacturing. These you find quite often on eBay. A community church. I have yet to build a church for my layout, so this could be either on the upper deck Slate Run or the bottom deck Jersey Highlands. Coaling station probably will not be built. I'll probably pass that on to another modeler at some point. And this country barn probably will be built. So all of this depends on the good Lord giving me more years here. And then some of their smaller kits. So this is a supply shed with a speeder shed. So two little structures. And this one I've seen made up on a lot of layouts. It's the abandoned house. That looks like it's not a house in the process of being built. It's a house that's in the process of becoming dilapidated. So all of these kits, if you look inside, have the traditional roll of roof shingles, Campbell shingles. Packets, if it's an unopened kit, they'll be nicely labeled. And the plans will tell you what's in each of these bags. That's bag B, bag A with some of the shingles, and I see stair stringers here. Cardstock for the roof, that's for the hand car shed, and that's for the supply shed. And some signage, mining supplies. So, yeah, it's... And again, two different pieces of paper, one the print instructions and one the diagrams. So, I guess if you wanted to get started with a Campbell kit, I'd start with one of the smaller ones like these that are a traditional building and see how you like making it before you got into any of the big ones. So, yeah, as I said, the Campbell family, passed the company down to the younger generation when Pop died, and they stayed in business for a number of years, but it was getting more and more difficult with, I guess, that the tendency for everybody to want to move to laser cut, and the fact that almost every Tom, Dick, and Harry can now have a laser cutter and start their own little business offering structures. So that was one thing, the competition from other vendors, but also competition from themselves. There are so many used Campbell kits floating around that they were competing not only, with the other companies, but with themselves. So here they are offering the Silver Spur Mine or one of these other, the Country Barn for $70, and on eBay you might be able to get it for $50. So yeah, they had a bit of a tough time with it. But at any rate, I'm sorry to see them go, but their legacy will live on, as will their kits. Speaking of that, yeah, there's the obligatory recent purchase. Not that I need any more kits on my shelf, particular Campbell kits, but sometimes you see something that is this kind of unbelievable deal. Now you got to remember that I am not afraid to buy a kit that might be missing something. So when a kit is listed, in this case 3 kits packaged together, obviously from the same estate, 3 listed together at a price that was just astounding, I had to jump on it. Even though I could probably use every one of these structures, they would fit into my time frame and locale and so forth. Just the amount of time it takes me to build a Campbell kit will prevent me from getting to all of them, I guess. But these were listed as possibly partially started, possibly parts missing, and as I said, it doesn't frighten me because all I did was send a notice to the seller saying, are the instruction sheets and diagrams there? And he said, yes, they are for each kit. And so I made him an offer. And you will find this hard to believe, but with shipping, these cost me, with shipping and tax, $17 each. Now let me put that in perspective. I looked, as I said, on the eBay today, and let's start with this trestle here. By the way, if you watched one of my recent videos, you saw me have to cut this kind of green saran wrap. This is the same seller. He obviously picked up an entire estate. The last purchase was not a Campbell kit, but it was every bit as good a deal. And again, came out of Terre Haute, Indiana, and got here in about 2 days, which is unbelievable. So yeah, let's start with the timber trestle. And again, this was listed as missing parts. But missing parts on a trestle is basically strip wood, all of which is listed in the plans as to the dimensions. And I'm not worried about that. I have so much strip wood that I won't have to even go to Micromark and get anything else. So yeah, and this is a trestle that will fit on my current work, and hopefully you will see me build this. So this is their kit number 751, and what are they going for right now? Well, I saw about 3 of them. They averaged $64 plus $10 shipping, or $74 versus $17. Even if I have to add some of my own strip wood, that is a deal. The next one is the Silver Spur Mine, and let me bring this one up close too. Silver Spur Mine has quite a few structures associated with it. This, at the time this was bought, which was probably quite a while ago, the list price was $53.55. And again, if there's any parts missing, I am not concerned. Actually, the bag of parts looks pretty extensive there, and $17. Right now, the average was $79 plus $10 shipping, or $89 versus the $17. And here's the instruction sheet and diagram for King's Cannery. It's a fairly complex, good-sized kit, and the diagrams and the instructions, loads and loads of windows. And if you know anything about this kit, it's basically got cardstock walls, and then you will put corrugated siding on it. So this one looks like basically it's unopened. And again, if anything is missing, it'll be strip wood, and I have plenty of that. So what is King's Cannery looking like? Looks like that. And there were none available on eBay, but I saw Walters have it listed and one other supplier, because don't forget, they were still producing these kits. So King's Cannery averaged $108 each, plus $10 shipping for $118, and I got it for $17 with shipping and tax. So 3 kits that I have saved, hopefully 3 kits that I will get a chance to build, and if not, I will go through each kit, add the strip wood that's missing so that they are complete, and pass it on at some point to another modeler. So that's it. Campbell, quite a legacy in our hobby. I know that today's modelers, if you're just starting out and you're a lot younger than me, you probably are not that familiar with Campbell. But if you're anywhere between age 60 and 80 and been in the hobby for 15 or 20 years, you are bound to have some Campbell kits up on your shelf. When modelers get together, we normally kid about this because we all buy them, we all put them on the shelf, and obviously not all of us are building them. But I do see quite a few recognize them when I see them on a layout. A lot of their bridges too, because they made a lot of bridges show up on the layout. So that's it. My little tip of the hat to Campbell. And like I said, someplace in this video, maybe at the end now, I'll show you some of my other Campbell models that I have built. And see if you agree that they make up into good-looking models. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to my channel. All right, talk to you again soon.